So listen, is Jared here? No, he's out. He's out. All right. These guys are coming a long way. I don't know if you guys ever went to the first one of these, 2018, out of George Mason, but Jared and Kathy's done a great job. And I'll say this, one of the funnier things I've ever gotten at a conference, I get invited to speak about once a week or so, but the know before you go from Kathy, did you guys read that? This is not a crypto event. You should dress professionally. It makes you want to go to a crypto event, doesn't it? And if anybody has any extra, 40 regular steampunk cowboy stuff, let me know so I can wear it tomorrow. Jared gave me this title, by the way, The Future of Money in Banking. Okay, I didn't pick it. It's a lot. It's like, the future of the stock market or who's going to win the NBA title. So there's no way in 25 minutes you're going to go away with that. But I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do here, which is number one. I'm going to talk about my little role in the regulatory landscape. I'm a federal regulator. I was appointed by the president. The Senate confirmed me a year and a half ago. I have a term until 2025 at what's called NCUA, National Credit Union Administration. We are the regulator and insurer for America's 5,000 credit unions. Over 1/3 of Americans belong to one. They have about $2 trillion in assets. We're kind of like FDIC for credit unions, right? And then I'm going to give a little bit closer to the topic, some thoughts on the broader issue of America's competitiveness in the blockchain industry, which I think is tied to America's competitiveness in the world. So again, I'm one of 3 members of this commission we're on, okay? I just came here today from our monthly board meeting. And in short, my job is to provide clarity to credit unions, okay? Man, we should connect later. You asked a question about ID. That's something we're talking about a lot. I find it weird that you have people from Afghanistan, just the latest wave, and they have trouble opening an account. And then people out of prison have trouble opening an account. If there's anyone who should be absolutely sure of who you are, it's the people who let you in from the war, the anti-terrorist war we had for 15 years, or the guy who locked you up for the last 20 years, right? They ought to be absolutely certain that it's you. So it's strange to me, there's nobody's ID who should be easier to prove. So that's something, I want to follow up on that. You may have noticed that regulators don't realize how nervous people are to ask their regulator about new ideas. They fear the consequences, and they have other things to do. So that's one of the reasons I took this job. I noticed that the regulated and their regulator often have very different ideas of how things are going. So I worked on the Senate Banking Committee before here, right? And then they asked me about this, and I was like, yes, because I was banging my head against the wall, because they didn't really get it. The problem we have as a regulator is we are a monopoly service provider. Monopolies produce bad products at high prices, always have, always will. It's not necessarily about the human beings, just the nature of the beast. So we're trying to help on this issue of clarity, like we were talking about. We need specific use cases, okay? And the credit unions, the 5,000, often don't talk to us. We need the vendors to talk to us, because it's your business model, and we don't regulate you. If we turn you down, it's not a knock on you, right? You notice governments like Bam Bam, like it doesn't realize its own strength. Well, everything it says and doesn't say lands like a ton of bricks, especially for regulated institutions. So, and I've been in here 18 months, and I got about 3 years left, and my true north, I always say, as a regulator, is ensuring that credit unions don't become Blockbuster Video because their regulator wouldn't let them compete. There are those who think, hey, TradFi, traditional finance, banks, credit unions, is going to be destroyed by DeFi, decentralized finance. Maybe that's true. But I don't want it to be because their regulator wouldn't let them compete, okay? So in 18 months in the job, I found that there's a lot of smart people who want to try new things with blockchain, crypto, but most of these projects never get off the ground. Even when these projects don't break any existing rules. Right? What's the point of a rule book if following it doesn't put you in the clear, right? If the speed limit's 60 and I'm going 55, I should be good, right? Regulated institutions worry about these things. And we, the 3 board members at NCUA, rarely ever hear about this stuff. I'll give you one story, all right? A crypto exchange, last year or 2, reached out to about 30 credit unions they thought were kind of forward-looking, tech-savvy, about partnering So credit union members can like buy and sell Bitcoin via their credit union app, right? The reason was because about 80% of the people in polls say they would prefer their first foray into crypto investing be with their trusted long-term financial provider, right? Not some app they downloaded 5 minutes ago, right? Plus, the credit unions, ask anybody in this business or regular banking, they all see the money flowing out, the ACH transfers, Coinbase, and they're not getting any of that. So anyway, this vendor went to 30 credit unions and said, hey, how about we partner, and it's the same buying and selling of Bitcoin these folks can do anyway, you just get a piece of the commission, and it's also a lot smoother to transfer your money back and forth, to get instant access, you don't have to leave the app. 29 out of 30 said no. 29 out of 30 said no, and they all used the word regulator or NCUA as part of it, right? Now, we do know that sometimes people use government or regulator as a way to get the salesman out of your face, right? They use it as an excuse to say no. I get it. All right, well, let's find out. 29 out of 30 said no. One forward-looking credit union went for it, didn't break any rules, ran into the CEO at the Money 2020 conference in Vegas, if you guys ever go, it was last November, and he showed me his screenshot of their beta testing, which was the 5 top executives all put $500 in. And that was their beta testing of their partnership with the crypto exchange. I said, can you send me a picture of that? And then we talked to the vendor, talked to the lawyers, brought them in on a Zoom call, hashed out, put out a piece of guidance. And again, it's just guidance. Why is it guidance and not a rulemaking we have to vote on? Because it didn't break any rules, that's why. We don't have to put out a new rule. It's just guidance, didn't break any rules. But that was something of a eureka for a lot of people. All these people want to do this, it's useful, it earns them money. Traditional finance gets some upside of this new field. Didn't break any rules, but nobody was doing it because they were worried about us. 29 out of 30, all of them launched in action, a bunch of them are live, plus a whole bunch of other people did, and it's a snowball, right? So I'm not here to promote that partnership or that crypto exchange. I don't even know if these partnerships are gonna make money. That is not really my issue. But there have got to be more of those ideas out there that we don't know about, and they're sitting on the shelf because the regulated institution's a little wary to talk to us. Because what if we say, no, that sounds risky? Now, that may reflect poorly on management. Management ability is one of the 5 things in a report card for any bank or credit union in the United States, right? So the vendors, you guys should reach out to us. Have credit unions do it too. But it's your business model. For the credit unions, it may be one of 10 projects they want to do. So it's not their main thing in life. But for the vendor, it is. So I mentioned the guidance in December about partnering in crypto exchanges, okay? I'm even happier to report that yesterday, we did our second thing, which was broad-based guidance, basically that just says, there's no reason not to do something just because blockchain or DLT is in the title. And if you're keeping score, we are the only one of the 6 financial regulators that is taking this approach. The others, maybe they're right, it's more of a mother may I approach, right? They have to get written non-disapproval from their regulator before they can pursue anything, okay? We're saying, hey, if it doesn't break any rules, go for it, because we know that there's gonna be risks, there's gonna be failures, there's gonna be partnerships that don't work. But what's the main risk here? It's not a vendor that went out of business, it's not a hack, it's becoming Blockbuster Video. That's the risk. So I'm trying to reorient our risk that way. So our letter is just principles. Went out yesterday, you can Google it, you can follow us on Twitter. And it's very broad and it's go forth and conquer. And it says right in the letter that we fully expect this to generate further use case follow-ups. Hey, how about this? How about ID? How about title for cars and real estate, et cetera, right? But if it doesn't break a rule, go for it. And it's incredibly valuable because not only is it broad guidance, but it also means, what does it signal? It signals we're not about to put out something the other way around, which is the other thing they worry about. Just because you're following the rules today doesn't mean you're going to put a whole bunch of time into a project and then tomorrow you find out, nuh-uh, right? So back to the big picture here, okay? We try to send a message that, with that letter, also to Silicon Valley, crypto bros, venture capital, right? Credit unions are a market you should pursue. When you're making your cool new apps, your ID app, your KYC app, your what have you, remember credit unions. They're about $2 trillion in assets, 140 million people, that's in this country. But we kind of have to. Credit unions are kind of sleepy. The banking world doesn't have this problem. The investing world certainly doesn't. So we kind of have to say, hey, credit unions over here. So I think clarity is important and early clarity is even more important. But move to the big picture, which is, again, the title that Jared gave me. The clarity in this industry is important to US dollar dominance, as fiat currencies go, okay? The dollar's place as a global currency helps us a ton of ways. The only reason we can impose sanctions is everybody's here's mortgage rate is lower because of it. It helps us finance our deficits, and American companies have a huge advantage when doing international business, okay? But it's not an accident, and it's not preordained to stay that way. The first currencies, were the Romans and the Spanish peso, and they were literally worth what they were made of in gold and silver. If you watch Game of Thrones, same thing. So why is this gold coin worth 20 pesos? Well, because it's made with 20 pesos worth of gold, that's why. And then that era ended, and that was a big shift. As you know, the dollar's done well in this. Okay, I would say the pound before that, but let me finish this thought, sorry. Their weight, okay? Do you guys remember Facebook's Libra? The US government crapped all over it, excuse me, and then complained about Terra and Luna this week. Meanwhile, there was an extraordinarily well-made stable coin. It won't work. But my point is, the currencies are worth their weight in gold. It didn't really matter what country produced it. Yes, the Spanish peso and the Dutch guilder coins were broad, and the Roman Empire before that. But it didn't really matter. Why? Because it's still 20 ounces. It's still an ounce of gold. It's still going to be worth something, whether it says Spanish peso or not, right? But it matters a lot in the society we have now. Once we shifted off that to paper money, they were all worth what they weigh. What does Libra mean? It's Latin, to weigh. You know the British pound, that swirly L, the symbol for the British pound? That's the Libra symbol, right? And that's what most global currencies were. Lira, it's the same Latin root. The old Italian lira, Turkish lira. How do you say weight in Spanish? Peso, exactly. So that was that world. And the great powers in their currency, they were all the people that colonized the world, and they made their currencies, they made their colonies use their currency. That's how they spread. That's how they were a great power. There was the whole French franc bloc, Central Africa. They all had to use the franc, right? Why is Egypt's currency the pound? Guess why? That all changed. The British pound was paper money. In World War II, the British were dethroned by the United States as the preeminent hegemon in the world, and the US dollar became the unit of global account, the global currency. And some would argue in the last 80 years we have abused that privilege. But as we sit here today, our country, the Federal Reserve, has the #1 product on the market. We have the largest market share because it's earned it. It's very useful. It's usually low inflation. It's incredibly liquid. But it's not preordained. And let me say this, to maintain the role and America's, all we need to do is let America do what they do best, succeed, innovate, work. We've done it forever, especially with something disruptive like blockchain. That takes clarity, okay? I'm glad that my agency did our little part yesterday to try to help give this country, which could crush it if we wanted to, do so well, our little piece of the world, for our little part of the regulatory sector, clarity to unleash the American power. And I'll finish with this. The impetus for yesterday's guidance, again, just broad principles, right? Didn't mention specific use cases, just, hey, blockchain's cool. We expect it to do neat things. Go ahead. That's all it said. The impetus for that was in 1997, Clinton-Gore administration posted on whitehouse.gov 5 principles for the internet. They put it on the website, which itself was only 2 years old at that point, whitehouse.gov. Wasn't a law, it was just principles. It's fascinating if you ever want to go back and look at it, it's still archived. #1, the private sector shall lead. #2, they had a bid on taxes, which is why we didn't have Amazon and e-commerce sales taxes for a long time until the Supreme Court, right? Just principles, but it sent a message to the federal government itself to say, hey, you guys should use the internet. And it sent a message far and wide that all else equal, we're gonna let this new tree grow, okay? And I say this, listen, I'm a Republican nominee on our commission, but that Clinton-Gore guidance in '97, and I think, is the greatest thing that came out of DC in my lifetime. If measured by jobs, we got the most jobs, the most headquarters, the most investment dollars, the highest investment returns. And we got upside to the disruption of the internet, not just downside. Everybody lost their blockbuster video type jobs. Canada did, Mexico did. We at least got Hulu, Netflix, the investors that got in on the seed rounds, the employees that got stock options. What sucks the most about disruption? To get all the negative and none of the upside, okay? Ask Detroit about foreign auto competition, right? So this country, I think, has all the tools, just like 25 years ago, to win blockchain, crypto, DLT. We got everything. You guys know we need one thing: clarity from the government. And I think if we get the basic rules of the road out of the way, we can be the massive, massive winners, just like we did 25 years ago. I'll stop there. Q&A. You want me to sit down? Stay up here? All right.
You're very intense, so okay. Is this mic on? No? Yes?
Hello.
There we go. So, I love your energy.
Sit down, stand.
No,
right.
you made me anxious, so. One of the things that I found fascinating was you clearly defined that there's a difference between the credit unions and the regular financial systems. What opportunities outside of what you gave as the use case for that crypto exchange have you found, or do you think that blockchain could be deployed through the credit union system? So
I think it's important, and again, I credit President Clinton and Vice President and Gore for this, is humility. We don't know, and we're not going to get it right. When they talked about the internet back then, what was that? It was web pages. It was a magazine page and it was cool. You could read the out-of-town newspaper. Wow. It now means something very different, right? Now it's an app on my smartphone that uses GPS, none of which were around back then, right? So I want to start by saying humility. There's going to be things I've never thought of, right? That said, for the rest of this year, people have been coming to me with ideas. One of them is a global ID, okay? Specific use cases being formerly incarcerated, which this country has a lot of, and refugees, right? Another one. Remember I said you can partner with a crypto exchange? I don't know if you follow banking, politics, what have you, but people get trashed for insufficient funds. Bounce check fees, right?
Correct.
You're $7 short, bam, $30, $35, right? Your alternatives, right? So how about this? What if you have $1,000 of Bitcoin? Why can't you do what the wealthy have done forever, which I have in my account, a margin loan? Why don't, when it's Thursday and you realize, oh Christ, my Verizon bill just hit, my car bill just hit, my buddy's Venmo isn't here, I'm about to go overdraft, and it's 4 p.m. What are my options? Get shafted on a fee by my institution, pawn shop, payday loan. None of them are good, they're all high cost, and they're all a bit of effort too. Why don't I right-click and borrow it, probably right now it'd be about 7%, right-click and get, say, 30% of the dollar, $300 out of my 1,000 in Bitcoin, which I didn't even necessarily have to buy. I may have accumulated it with my 2% cashback Bitcoin rewards card, right? That's so much easier. It's lower cost. You don't have to, leave your phone. Boom, why don't I borrow that? This whole argument about, and we get it a lot. I got it from the Senate during my confirmation about interest rate charges, what have you. There's an easier solution. It's better, it's cheaper, and you can't default on it. There's no bet trap because they just close out, if you know how margin loans work, they just sell the assets and pay it off, right? There's no cycle of getting another loan to pay your loan. That's one. So margin loans against that. Or you could have it set up automatically. Like if my checking account ever goes down, boom, automatically you send it in, right? So I never get a bounce check fee and all that, and all I get is a 7% loan. ID, AML, remittances. A lot of credit unions, even the ones down by the southern border, don't do it because it's such a pain. The AML, BSA laws are so time consuming. But what if, with combo of ID, et cetera, so right now they're withdrawing money from their credit union, walking down the street, getting totally scalped by Western Union, and then the foreign exchange fee, and their grandma who's getting the money is getting scalped on that end. So that's another option. But title, cars and real estate. Credit unions basically do mortgages and car loans. That's 80%, right? They're very Main Street. And have anybody bought a home in the United States? Is it weird how much you have to pay in insurance to prove that that property actually belonged to that person?
Right. Title insurance is very expensive.
Right. So anyway, those are some answers. But again, my assumption is, my knowledge is like the iceberg. Most of it's underwater, and I can't see it. There's probably a million other ideas out there.
So I do have one question with regards to this. The business model that you were just mentioning is, well, from the consumer side, it's very advantageous not to pay the overdraft fee. But from the banking side, that is a huge revenue generator for them. I mean, are credit unions going to say, you know what? let's do this partnering, and I'm going to give up all that revenue? Is there going to be like institutional pushback is
Yeah.
really what I'm asking.
Well, luckily we have a market, right? If I know with your credit union, I get stuck with that fee automatically. And now I was $7 short, now I'm 37 short, 30, right? And sometimes, depending on how they do it, you didn't even pay the other bill. So they can screw you too, excuse me. If somebody else said, we got this set up automatically where you have a low interest loan, you can't default on it, that's a more attractive thing. But they also, right or wrong, get political pressure. And when you say, stop getting this fee income, but on the other hand, your regulator says, make sure your financial results stay up to par. Hold on a second, what does that mean? That means we got to find something else. You need another source of fee income, which is also why I'm here today talking to you. That connection with the crypto exchanges, that's another source. So if they find it politically tenable or the market says, you can't rely on overdraft anymore, but you still have to keep your financial results up, you got to find something else. You got to find something else to bring in money. So that's why things like the partnership with the crypto exchanges, that's the solution to that,
I have a question, and my very first bank account was at a credit union, but we had to be part of, it was a credit union that was related to my father's employment.
Yep.
What is the restrictions, or how are credit unions actually organized? Are they association-based of some sort?
It's changed a lot over the years.
Okay, what is it now?
Yeah, so they've changed a lot. Keep in mind, of America's 5,000, about 2,000 are state chartered. So their state sets the rules. We at NCUA are strictly their insurer, okay? Same with the state chartered bank.
So you're like FDIC?
100%. We're the FDIC insurer for all 5,000, right? We have a $22 billion fund, which is about 1% of the $2 trillion in assets, and that's part of our job is to have that fund for when things go bad, right? So the states will set that in a lot of cases. Like a lot of great things in America, credit unions came from immigrants. They were Quebecois mill workers who came over into New Hampshire, and that's traditionally what credit unions were, groups of workers, right? During the pandemic, when everything was going to hell and we lost 22 million jobs in a month, I was using some of them. This is something a bank would have a harder time doing. There were employment groups that were useful to know how bad things were. Airline has a credit union. The Vegas Strip casino workers have a credit union. Disney employees have a credit union. So like I was looking at those three groups, because if they're doing okay, remember when everything was shut down? If Disney, the Vegas Strip workers, and the airlines, if their people are paying their bills, that was my canary in the coal mine. That is usually how they're set up, but there's still, you can sort of combine associations now. It's definitely moved from beyond its original all mill workers, because what you wound up with was the mill workers' credit union is still around, but the mill shut down 10 years ago, right? That makes it a little more awkward. So they've spread, but.
Okay. Is there any other questions by anyone here in the audience? Yes, please.
Has this been up the whole time? My collar here?
Yeah. It's okay, though. You
That's
look
so
good.
annoying.
You look like Drew Carey.
The whole time it was? Oh. No, it's like when you have something in your teeth or on your shoe, like you're supposed to say, you're supposed to tell people that. All right, go ahead.
By the way, my first job was as a teller at a credit union, so thank you. But my question really is to, so CDs, certificate of deposits, right?
Yeah.
Why is it not on the blockchain? Why can't we make a product and get better returns than what we're doing now? You know, because I remember my parents, they were getting better returns on certificate deposits, and it's no longer a viable tool or product any longer. And
Because of rates, though.
Because of what?
Mostly because of rates.
Yeah, because of rates.
Remember,
the rates went down.
Interest rates are the price of money, right? That's how much money costs. And borrowing and lending is usually the same cost with a slight vig for the institution, right? So if you want to earn 10% on your CD, I would too, I get it. But be prepared to pay 11% on your mortgage, right? So that is a function of that. What is interesting is the DeFi lending, the yield. We got to find positive operators in this space because it's politically getting a lot of abuse lately. You saw Michael Sue at the OCC this week. Said, these guys are charging 60%, it's all hype, or no, they're promising you returns. I think that can happen just like the connection to crypto exchange. Not necessarily insured, right? But if it'd be an easier way to get yield. CDs, now maybe they should be on a blockchain. And I do think in a DeFi world, it's not that this bank is going to offer you 0.75 and you're going to look online and this other one's going to offer you 0.9. It's why don't lenders and borrowers across the world just connecting as long as you're lending and borrowing dollars in a certain amount of time. So I think they'll coalesce and you should get the highest rate as a saver. And the CD is also somebody borrowing that money, right?
Right.
They should get the lowest rate.
But in your idea, though, like, let's push the envelope here. So instead of going to a payday loan or a title loan that gives me 365%, right, interest, and just to cover that telephone bill that I just defaulted
Right,
or
yeah.
whatever, because I didn't have that extra $5. So why don't I open up a CD in my credit union that backs my
Oh, and you borrow against that.
yes, and I'm willing to pay through 11, 12, 13%, just like my credit card is 22%.
Sure. You'd pay anything that was easier
Right.
and lower cost than all your other options, which are terrible, right?
Right.
Why can't you use that as collateral? Part of the problem is, and hopefully technology can solve this, as it has already, what you're doing is creating a loan. They are originating a loan for maybe $50.
Right.
It's not worth, it has a loan number, it's in their system. Now, it's collateralized, so the credit part should be a little easier, right?
Right.
If you don't pay it back, they just grab your CD.
Right.
But small dollar lending, and this is why a lot of politicians who, like to talk about it a lot, even though they don't ever lend to these people, that's part of the issue. It's hard to create and originate a $50 loan and service it and everything. But technology can probably solve this.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Thank you for your questions. We got two more
But
people
yes,
behind you, so.
But that's a good idea, and let's talk about that, because it's the same principle, right? Your collateral, a CD, or your 24/7 Bitcoin is way easier than the other two kinds of collateralized loans we all get. A mortgage, where you got to foreclose, and that is a nightmare.
Very
or
quick.
a car loan, and you couldn't pay me enough to be a repo guy for cars in an open carry state? No friggin' way, right?
So do you think your guidance that you put out yesterday is going to solve the question? So when people go sign up for their account, they're not asked, are you going to have any crypto or Bitcoin blockchain activity on this account?
So have you seen that recently?
If you go to a bank, it happens.
Yeah. And nowadays, a huge chunk of people under, say, 30 are putting money in and out of Coinbase, et cetera. The problem that banks and credit unions need is eventually you don't need that. You don't have to answer that because you don't have any money there. Your paycheck goes to Coinbase.
Right.
You
Which
pay,
they're doing now.
Right. So, ask whatever you want. Doesn't matter. We're now divorced and we're over here, right? So that's the issue.
So I think actually your guidance really helps
Yeah.
that question.
So I want to be clear on this. When I said this, the 4 banking regulators, right? Us, Fed, FDIC, OCC, and I say there's 6 total financial. So then you throw in SEC and CFTC, right? In this country, right? Most countries, CFTC and SEC would be one agency. In terms of what is a security and is there an illegal security offering, that is not our remit, okay? And that's what I keep trying to stress is there's stuff with blockchain. Now, we can have those discussions about what's the SEC doing, they should give more clarity, and lawsuits they have against Ripple and all have you. If the credit union is asking you those questions because they're just terrified of the issue in general, and I get some of the stuff, I look at what we've sent out in the past, it kind of infers that you're not supposed to do this stuff. It's the questionnaires. I was like, come on, guys, you can't just ask this. These questionnaires, it's right in between, are you doing anything with cannabis, and has anybody on your management or board had any financial crimes arrested last year? Right in between those two questions is, are you doing anything with crypto, right? I'm like, no, we're just asking a question. I'm like, guys, you don't understand the way this lands. That's what I mean about bam, bam.
Right.
When my wife says you're going to be home late, he's not just asking a question. There's a right answer, right?
Thank you. The
We
next
can deal with that.
question.
Thank you. I know we're running out of time. All right.
No, I just wanted to congratulate you on your guidance, the action of the guidance, because you did it for the right reasons, and that's really great. Just have a question. What's your opinion of ID40 or any of the ID guidance or suggestions coming out of the World Bank?
So you're referring to, like, the session we just had?
Well,
You said ID, right? Identification?
Right, ID. Mm-hmm.
So it has to pass muster. What really matters is, can you open an account? And then, are you going to send money to somebody? And are they abroad? Those are 3 different levels. right? I'm from a small state, Maine, right? When I passed my driver's license exam, they make it right there with that plastic machine, you know, and they take a little picture and they stamp it, and it's really hot when they give it to you. Like, that's how low tech, you know, it was. And that somehow worked for me to do all these things, you know? So KYC, we're sending money abroad. That's the highest level of know your customer and the recipient. So we'll see how that goes. Politically, though, this works because there's use cases like we mentioned. People who are politically empathetic. Refugees, right? People out of prison who served their time back in civil society trying to earn a living. That's one thing that's useful about this. I can't give you a detailed answer. What I will know is the gentleman from the UN was here, and I just read about this recently. What they did in Syria with the refugees, only blockchain could have solved that problem of feeding them. An almost unsolvable problem. They couldn't give them debit cards. The warlords took it from them. Fascinating. And the vendors who gave them the food got paid immediately, no dispute. So we try to use those examples to curry favor because there's a nervousness to things that are new in government if you haven't noticed.
Okay.
All right, thank you very much. Thank you, Kyle.